Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope you're having a blessed day wherever in the world you are. Welcome to Pep Talk, the podcast where we give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us, God. We take all these interesting, fun, and sometimes a little bit crazy health and wellness conversations, break them down into digestible, easy to understand segments, and then we give you action steps to help create the future and the health that you want to create so you can improve your life, the life of your family, and the life of your community. So, folks, I'm your host, Dr. Eric Naputi. I've been a practicing physician for over 20 years now in the field of functional medicine and functional neurology. We help people get to the root cause of their problems. And today we're going to be talking about yo-yo dieting. How many of you have yo-yo dieted before? You got on the latest, greatest, health weight loss kick, and you did it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you lost weight, and then boom, bounced back up. You gained not only the weight back that you lost, but you gained another 2 to 3 pounds after that. How many of you know that this is you? You've heard of this. Well, I want to tell you something. There is a vicious cycle with this yo-yo dieting. I'm going to show you some things you can do today to help break that streak. I'm going to show you some predispositions that you may have that predisposes you genetically for yo-yo dieting. Then we're going to talk about some action steps and some solutions here. So listen, for many people, weight loss is so frustrating. It's such a frustrating journey because it's marked by repeated cycles. You get excited, you get motivated, you do something, you lose some weight, then a small amount of time comes by, and then you fall off track and it happens again. You're just going up and down all the time. That's what a pattern known as a yo-yo dieting happens. Not to undermine the long-term benefits of weight loss, because they are beneficial. We should try to keep our body at a healthy weight, but there's emerging research that highlights how this cycle not only alters gut health, but hormonal health, and damages the gut microbiome, increases inflammation, and makes it harder and harder to lose weight if you're constantly yo-yo dieting. By the way, adding to this complex deal, there's genetic predispositions. If you haven't run a genetic test to measure the single nucleotide polymorphisms in your body, which are the SNPs, the good genes versus the bad genes, if you will, there are genes that predispose people to be struggling with this yo-yo diet. And there are things that you can do to help with that. So let's talk. Let me read some of my notes that I put together for you guys today on this. So let's talk about the gut-centric problem with this. Your gut plays a pivotal role in regulating body weight. In fact, there's studies that have been done on rats and now on humans. In fact, Dr. Jeff Gordon, the Dr. Gordon studies showed that if they take fecal matter out of a healthy, skinny, thin rat and put it into an obese rat, that obese rat over time becomes thin and healthy. Why? Because it's all about the gut microbiome. If a healthy gut bacteria gets inserted into an individual, over time, that healthy bacteria has a chance to take over and do right things, do good things for the body. The same is true with someone who has taken sick fecal matter out of a rat or a human that is depressed or is sick or is overweight or has disease. Put that into someone who's supposedly healthy, and the opposite happens. That healthy person gets sick. So you got to understand that the gut communicates with the brain through gut-derived hormones. Like, here's a couple peptides and hormones that do this. The first one is peptide YY. They call it PYY. It's a compound hormone in the body that promotes the feeling of fullness. It's very similar to ghrelin and leptin and things like that in the body. Glucagon-like peptides, so GLP-1, like semaglutides, you're hearing about, Wegovy and Ozempic and those things. But there are natural glucagon-like peptides agonists in the body, like cinnamon and berberine and intermittent fasting and eating a high protein diet. These things also stimulate those compounds, those hormones, to tell the brain not to crave, foods as much. There's also something called cholecystine CCK, which is the signaling for satiety in the body. And then ghrelin triggers hunger when the stomach is empty. So making sure that these yo-yo diets that people do screws up those signaling hormones, primarily in the gut. These are all made in the gut. So if your gut bacteria is off, you cannot keep weight off the body, and you're going to be more predisposed to yo-yo dieting. So that's why in our clinics, the first thing that we do when we have someone that comes in for a metabolic reset plan is, first and foremost, we have to clean the gut. We got to clear the clutter out of the system, remove all the bad foods, the adjuvants, the chemicals, the toxins, all the stuff that we're doing. We have to avoid eating them. Then we have to remove those through a simple detox process. During that process, we have to get the gut bacteria to improve as well. By the way, during weight loss, and by the way, during calorie restricted, times in your life, levels of satiety, so the hormones, the PYY hormone and GLP-1 hormone and the CCK chemicals will drive hunger and food cravings down. So these hormone imbalances persist and a lot of times cannot fire like they're supposed to if the gut bacteria is off, and these yo-yo diets actually, cause that. By the way, as weight is regained in the body, the gut's inflammatory environment worsens. As we put on more weight, we eat more inflammatory foods, we get more inflammation in the gut, and it perpetuates the cycle of damage that affects not only your gut microbiome, but also affects metabolism and the immune system as well. So the inflammation also has an effect on yo-yo dieting in the body. This chronic low-grade inflammation is a hallmark of obesity, and the yo-yo dieting accelerates this condition. This is why people gain weight after they go on a food plan for a while. You've heard the phrase diet is Latin for lifestyle change, but the first three words or first three letters in the word diet are diet. Nobody wants to do that, right? So research shows that if weight regains after dieting triggers, number one, increased activation in pro-inflammatory immune cells and cytokines, which predisposes you to sickness and disease, predispose you to chronic pain, all because of yo-yo dieting. Damage to the intestinal lining also happens, leading to an increased gut permeability. So leaky gut happens if you're yo-yo dieting, which is a big issue. And then the systematic inflammation that contributes to metabolic dysfunction, things like diabetes and syndrome X and metabolic dysfunction and other metabolic disorders increase as we do this yo-yo diet. So we've got to stop the yo-yo diets. We've got to get on a lifestyle that is suited for us. And the best way to get a lifestyle that's suited for you is to live based off of your genetic predisposition. So every one of you has a genetic predisposition, a set of genes that you're born with. And these genes that you're born with, they tell you how your body handles fats, carbs, and proteins, how your body handles stress, how you respond to certain medications, certain chemicals, how exercise is beneficial, how your body degenerates with age. I mean, there's so many things we can tell with these tests. And I run the BioLimitless DNA Discovery Wellness Test, which is the 800,000 SNP test that tells us everything we want to know from a genetic standpoint about our body and action steps you can take to improve upon that. But you got to understand that when the gut barrier is compromised, inflammatory molecules like LPSs and other inflammatory cytokines enter into the bloodstream, and those inflammatory chemicals pass the blood-brain barrier and now cause damage to the brain. So when you're yo-yo dieting, it increases the risk of insulin resistance. It increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, anxiety, depression, and much, much more. The microbiome alterations are a huge key to weight regain as well. So if you do not have the proper amounts of lactobacillus, the proper amounts of bifidobacterium, this is going to be a serious contributing factor a serious contributing factor to keeping the weight on and not being able to lose it. Yes, it can be as simple. Stopping the yo-yo diet, emotional roller coaster can be as simple as getting the gut bacteria balanced out. But it's more than just taking a probiotic. Like you guys know, I recommend the Master Microbiotic by BioLimitless, but it's all about minimizing the foods that are going to cause damage to the gut microbiome. Sugary foods and drinks, fizzy drinks, eating foods that have antibiotics in it, drinking water that has antibiotics in it, taking antibiotics, all destroys the gut bacteria. Not having enough fiber in your diet. 95% of the global population doesn't have enough fiber to feed the gut bacteria. Fiber doesn't cause you to lose weight. Fiber feeds the gut bacteria that allows your body to metabolize so that you can burn fat, so that your brain works good and you have good inflammation. We get a massive rise in harmful bacteria like candida and other bacterial overgrowths and even bad fungus overgrowths that can lead to serious problems. And that candida can grab a hold of your enteropathic nervous system, which overtakes your cravings. And it tells you to crave pastas, breads, sugars, and all the junk foods that are out there. So persistent microbiome changes, I mean, even after weight loss in the microbiome remains altered, making future weight gain more likely. So it's not just about losing the weight. You got to deal with the gut bacteria. If you don't deal with the gut bacteria, you're not going to lose weight. It's just impossible. Studies show that it can take months, even years in some cases, for the microbiome to recover from these shifts during these stressful times. So when I start someone on a microbiome repair program, I'm telling them it's at least 12 to 14 months of doing the right things, taking the right supplements, avoiding, those bad foods so that we can recreate a new set point of microbiome, if you will, that favors, healthy weight, healthy metabolism, healthy hormones. And there are genetic predispositions for this. So we talk about clean gene versus dirty genes. Clean genes are your genes firing like they're supposed to. Dirty genes are the genes that they're not firing in the sequence that they're supposed to be firing in. And it can cause an upstream and a downstream cellular and genetic expression issue. Here are some of the SNPs, some of the genes that if you have in your system not firing proper is going to cause you to be more prone to yo-yo diets. The first one is the FTO gene. This is the fat mass and obesity gene. This role influences hunger, satiety, and the tendency to regain weight after dieting. If you have this, it's associated with higher ghrelin levels, which increases appetite. All right. So if you have FTO gene, there are certain things that you can do by like adding fiber, adding fiber to your meals, adding good fats. Good fats keeps the sugar cravings down. That's a big one. Here's another one, the leptin receptor gene. That's called the LEPR gene. This gene affects leptin sensitivity, which impairs the brain's ability to detect fullness. Ghrelin makes you hungry. Leptin makes you feel full. So this leads to persistent hunger even after a meal. If you are eating and constantly eating and you just don't feel full, a lot of times this gene is not firing like it's supposed to. Another gene is the MC4R gene. That's the MC4R gene. That gene regulates appetite and energy expenditure. This gene variant typically you find with folks who have to eat more food at more intake of a meal. These are people who have very difficult times losing weight. Now, there are lifestyle changes that you can make if you know that these genes are problematic that can help you get off that vicious cycle of the yo-yo dieting. There's another gene called the ADRB2. ADRB2, it's a beta-2 androgenic receptor gene. And this has a lot to do with fat metabolism and thermogenesis. We have to heat up our body to burn fat. This one reduces the body's ability to burn fat effectively, increasing the likelihood of fat gain. So if you're someone that says, man, I have a difficult time burning, but if I just look at a muffin, I gain weight, you probably have this gene defect. There's another gene called PPARG. This gene has a lot to do with fat storage and insulin sensitivity. These guys are associated with increased in fat deposits and reducing metabolic flexibility. So these are folks that have more predisposition to gaining weight, storing fat, and having a difficult time losing that. And these are the folks that typically get into type 2 diabetes and other metabolic disorders quickly. The MTHFR gene, you're going to hear me talk about that gene with almost every chronic illness or metabolic dysfunction, including weight gain, weight loss, and you are predisposed to having yo-yo diet issues if you have MTHFR. So the impact of this is poor detoxification and increase in inflammation in the diet, which accelerates systemic inflammation and hinders metabolic recovery for weight cycling. We also have the gene TCF7L2. If this gene is problematic, it's involved in insulin secretion and insulin resistance of primarily of glucose, which is going to be a big problem for type 2 diabetes. So there are probably 15 to 20 different genes. Let me tell you one more. There's another gene called the CLOCK gene, CLOCK, which deals with the circadian locomotor outlook cycle caput, which deals with your circadian cycle and metabolic regulations. This one is one that if this is problematic, this disrupts sleep and hunger. This is the one where people wake up and they're starving. They can't eat they can't sleep unless they go back to, they can't go back to sleep unless they eat. Or these are folks that they feel like they have to have some food in their system if they're going to take a nap or fall asleep. So there's a lot of hormonal variants in here genetically that deal with the yo-yo diet and body composition. So one of the most concerning effects of yo-yo dieting is the impact on body composition. So what happens is we have increased fat deposits, particularly in the abdominal area. So if you're constantly doing this yo-yo, which you can get off that yo-yo wagon by eating for your genetic lifestyle and having the right microbiome work done to fix the gut bacteria, and taking a couple peptides like semaglutide and BBC 157 are very powerful to deal with this. But if you don't, and you're constantly yo-yoing, you're going to have trouble getting fat off the midsection. You're going to have loss of lean muscle mass as well. When you lose weight, the weight you're going to burn is muscle mass, and we do not want that, okay? That's a big problem. This leads to an unfavorable fat to muscle ratio. And it's going to slow down our metabolism. If we lose muscle, metabolism slows down. So if you don't get your butt in the gym or start pressing some weights around, we're never going to be able to sustain weight loss, especially as we get older. And then let me tell you a couple other things. If you're yo-yo dieting, you have a predisposition to pancreatic dysfunction. The pancreas is what gets the blood sugars and insulin levels to fluctuate. And this is going to accelerate development of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. You also have an increase in cardiovascular problems if you're yo-yo dieting, and you're going to have a big issue with a problem with the gut microbiome, which can lead to all kinds of issues. So I just want you to understand that there's more to yo-yo dieting than just discipline and then just, following the latest, greatest fad diet that's out there. So if you want to get real serious about your health and about getting off this cycle of yo-yo dieting, if you yo-yo diet all the time, there's probably genetic predisposition. Run a BioLimitless Discovering DNA genetic test, and that'll tell you how to live your life according to your genes, how to eat, how to sleep, etc. Number 2, get your gut microbiome under control. That's a big one. Start implementing exercise. Doing a 15 to 20 minute walk after your food can lower your sugars by 20 to 30 points. And then start pushing some weights around. These are some of the most common things that you can do if you'll get serious about. This will help you get off the wagon of weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, and it'll help you so much physically, chemically, and neuro-emotionally. So folks, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back and re-watch this podcast, share it with your friends and family members and loved ones. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Go to our website. That's peptalk.world, peptalk.world. Like, subscribe, and share. And know that you're in control. You have the ability and you have the responsibility to take your health back, but you got to gain the knowledge. It's not just about the knowledge. And yes, knowledge is powerful, but it's the wisdom of implementing that into your life. That's where the real power is. You have that knowledge, and I'm giving you the opportunity to do that. So folks, until we meet again, I'm Dr. Eric Naputi. God bless you. God bless America, and God bless the world. Stay smart out there, and I'll see you soon. Be well.